Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
We've been having nothing but technical difficulties here. So Tuesday's show, which was the Blueprint Power Hour, never aired because we had problems with microphones and cameras and internet. And I swear, we're having internet issues today, too. There's a lag. You'll notice that my camera freezes once in a while. It's very suspicious. I don't understand it. What from one day to the next, why these things happen. But they happen. But we are bringing you a show today. Regardless of what technical difficulties try to get in our way. And you can ask any questions you want about training, nutrition, diet, supplementation, sex, drugs, rock and roll. We don't care. We'll answer your questions. So line up. You can post your questions right here where you're watching. If we are on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you're on LinkedIn, and we will comment and answer your questions today. Before we do that. And again, everything is running slow, so you're going to have to be patient with me. Maybe I need a new computer. I don't know. But the first thing we have to do is pay homage to our title sponsor, which is Legendary Foods. Legendary Foods is an amazing company that honors people's desire to eat less sugar, but not have to avoid sweet things. They have everything from seasoned nuts to flavored almond butters, cashew butters, delicious flavors. And then, of course, their newest product, most exciting product, is their tasty pastry, which really does taste like you're eating cake. You'll eat them even though they're good for you. What I mean by that is most things that are good for you taste like crap. Tasty pastries taste amazing. Less than 1 gram of sugar, 20 grams of high-quality protein. You can go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off all of Legendary Foods products on their website. Or if you listen during the commercial breaks, you'll hear a well-placed word that'll just jump out at you. That's the secret word. Email that secret word to onair@superhumanradio.net. Include your mailing address, and Legendary Foods will send you, apparently, they're sending like a whole box of stuff, seasoned almonds and flavored nut butters and tasty pastries. Just for the asking. You don't have to do anything special. You don't have to win. Everybody who sends an email to onair@superhumanradio.net with the secret word and their mailing address will get this box of goodies. And we're getting some responses from people that were so surprised at how wonderful and generous tasty pastry, Legendary Foods is. So check that out. And now, without further delay, I'll bring my guest on, whose microphone didn't work last time we tried to do the show. And it was on my end, actually. It was my fault. There's something in my computer here. When I restart the computer in the morning, it shuts the headphones off. And it was doing that. Let's roll his theme music.
Calling all Blueprint Army. Fall in line. It's time for the Blueprint Power Hour with Coach Rob Regish on the Superhuman Radio Network.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
Good. I am glad that we were able to overcome technical difficulties 48 hours ago.
I don't know what it is. It's like from one day to the next. I have fiber optics in this office. There's no reason for there to be latency in my internet. Maybe it's
When
not.
did it all start?
I just put a brand new router in because they said, well, maybe it's your router. Routers only last a couple years. I don't understand why routers only last a couple years. There's no moving parts in them.
Yeah, sounds
Like
a little fishy.
my TV doesn't have to be replaced every couple years. Why does no router?
Right.
It just sounds like a lot of bullshit to me. I'm sorry. I'm frustrated right now. So this show may be a little, Anyway, so there you go. And then I had body work done. I have a gal in this building here named Nancy Fuller. She's amazing. She doesn't do massage. She does body work. Do you know the difference?
Rolfing?
Pretty close, yeah. You're close. Yeah, it's like Rolfing. It's very deep tissue. But more importantly, she digs into the insertions and originations of soft tissue.
Very painful, I understand.
It is. It's very painful. But you put up with the pain because you know it's going to stop, and So I've had neck problems. Nancy knocked it out yesterday. I can turn my head rapidly now. I have no more pain in my neck. She's amazing. She's amazing.
I should clarify that. That's only half the story. I've heard two things. One, while it's being done, it's one of the most painful things you'll experience. But afterwards, you feel so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel unlocked. I had the best chest workout today. I was so much stronger. And the only difference was that she worked on me yesterday since my last chest workout. I mean, I was so much stronger, and I was, everybody talks about range of motion.
Right.
So they think range of motion in a bicep movement is having your arm straight out, but it's also completely contracting the muscle. And in the chest exercise, when you're pressing, getting your pectorals to completely all the way into the center of your chest to contract is really the goal. And I was able to get my pecs working today like never before. She worked on them yesterday. She did.
Yeah, I totally believe in that stuff. The Russians did a lot of research and used a lot of massage techniques to their great advantage. So I'm 100% on board with what
when I first got on board. Well, she moved into the building and it said massage therapist. I says, oh yeah. She goes, well, I'm not really a massage therapist. She goes, I do body work. Do you know the difference? I says, yeah, my friend Ron Penna gets body work all the time. He swears by it. He says it's keeping him young. She says, like, if you're looking to get on a table and be relaxed and maybe even doze off, this isn't it. I said, okay. I thought, like, how bad could it be? Yesterday I was on the table and she was working on my quads in the area that I've injected for decades now,
Yep.
And it hurt. She doesn't stop. She's like,
well, at least she's honest about it.
I'm laying there going, and she's like, okay, it'll be over soon. It's like, but man, legs feel good.
Part of the process. She's up front and honest about it. So, hey, why not?
Nothing relaxing about what Nancy does, but it's magic. It's magic. You just have to learn to endure it. How are you doing? How's your training going?
I'm doing well. My training is, like I spoke to last week, more and more momentum. And Monday was no exception. Yesterday was a very good workout. And then I'm hoping Friday will be another one. And then I'm going to back off for a little bit, hit some PRs, hopefully, and takes, a week or so off and start the process again.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
You just keep moving forward. Sometimes you get pushed back, but then you just start moving. It's all about momentum. Just keep moving in that direction, and you'll always do well. Do we have any announcements to make before we start with our first question?
No, other than, we're in the final days of the Synthogen 10-year anniversary sale. Just to recap quickly, that's $10 off everything from a single bottle, which we've never done, all the way up to, I think it's 6-packs, caseloads of the stuff. And trust me, those are already very deeply discounted. So if you've heard about it and you've always wanted to try it, now's the time. If you're somebody that loves it, and there are a lot of them, it's time to stock up. It's a great time to stock up. If you go to synthogen.com and use the term celebration, if it isn't already pre-populated for you, you get all that and more. The caps, there's a very specific training program that I have penned just for Synthogen. So getting a lot of good feedback on that too. So it's not just the bottle of pills.
How long has Synthogen been around now?
A little over 10 years. And I can remember the day that I announced it on this show. And I remember your comment, okay, Coach Rob throwing his hat in the supplement ring. We'll see how Synthogen turns out. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I've made the comment, it'll be here in 10 years later, largely unchanged. And sure enough, here we are.
And that was my point of asking that question.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of supplements that have come and gone. You don't even see them. You don't hear about them anymore. They're gone. But Synthogen would not still be around if there weren't people who keep buying it. You're not living off of first-time sales. You're living off of resales, reorders.
Right. And
that's got to be providing some benefit to people.
Yeah. And I've said it many times. I'll say it again, whether it's Synthogen or any other supplement. The biggest test and the most important one in my book is the test of time. If there's a supplement that's been around for 10 years or more, there's usually a pretty good reason for that.
Yeah. Can you think of one supplement that was gangbusters that is gone today completely off the radar? Like when they introduced it, everybody was buying it. It was going to be the next big thing. It was going to make you a Hulk. I already thought of one.
I remember so many. Prime, Pink Magic, Compound 20.
What was that? What was that? Was it Ipraflavone that was in the 100% cholesterol?
Yeah, Ipraflavone, and then 5-methoxyisoflavone.
That's what it was. It was 5-methoxyisoflavone. It came in pharmaceutical grade 100% cholesterol.
Tasted like bubble gum, right?
It was good. It actually tasted good.
Yeah.
In fact, I literally drank a half bottle of it one day. I know I'm an asshole. I already know that. Nobody has to tell me. I have all the scars to prove I'm an asshole. But I figured, well, the cholesterol is good for testosterone levels. It'll help that. Nothing. It did nothing for me. I saw nothing from it.
Yeah. And that was the one that, because Ipraflavone didn't work, 5-methoxy, that was supposed to be the one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, this is the one this is the one we just give this much to cows and they put on 5 pounds of muscle in a week. It's like, oh, okay, I'm not a cow. Maybe it's going to work for me.
Hey, we've all been there, right?
Yeah. All right, let's move on with the show. Let's get to the first question. The first question comes from, and plus, those of you watching live, please post your questions. We'll get to every one of them. Mike Andrews says, you've clearly been in the game a long time and have some great insights. In your opinion, where do most people go wrong? I mean, let's say someone gets into this newbie gains dry up, and then newbie gains dry up. Then they go nowhere for years. I see a lot of that. Why does it happen?
Yeah, this is a great question. Whoever this guy is, he does a lot of observing. And you can learn a lot, right, about what to do and what not to do by observing different populations, let's say, in different gyms. And so, I've done that too quite a bit. I don't claim to have all the answers, but here are my observations. After newbie gains are exhausted, people go through a period, usually young men, where they get frustrated, very frustrated. So frustration leads to, I need to do something. And the first place they usually turn is either, right,
drugs,
supplements or anabolics. And so the first thing I want you to realize is that frustration sells a lot of product. Tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars in supplements, plus, the black market for anabolics. I don't know what it is. Clearly, they don't publish figures, but it's only gotten bigger over the years. So that should tell you something about, how much money's being spent. People will also go nowhere when they think they know it all about training, diet, and what have you. Having trained plenty of men and women, I can tell you this unequivocally. It is exponentially more difficult to get a man to change his training or even talk about changing it or his diet than it is a woman, even when he's obviously flatlined for a long time, in some cases years. And it's the same thing with diet pretty much. Most guys have a vague to a pretty good notion of how many grams of protein they're eating every day. Not much else, though, when you question them. And so there's a lot of room for improvement there, too. Some people also kind of throw their hands up. They accept that newbie gains are pretty much all they're going to get. And then the gym becomes a social escape or social platform. And for some people, I guess, that's a valid thing, right? They could be doing much worse things. Let's put it that way. Some also will still train, but very sporadically. But this is interesting. They spend much more time online in bodybuilding forums than they do training or even reading about training or seeking other answers. Interesting thing, when they join these message boards, what I've seen is, they'll be there for, let's say, a year, maybe more. And so they build up a reputation as, that's kind of one of the go-to guys. He knows what's going on.
And most often these guys make gains. And so people look to them and go, how can I make gains like you? And while genetics do play a role in, and and I know we've said, this guy, he looks at the weights and he grows, right? We've had those.
Right.
But blaming it all on genetics isn't really fair, because everybody can add more muscle no matter what. Some guys faster and some guys more, and some guys less and some guys slower. But everybody can add more muscle. I don't know if you've found this, but really it comes down to eating.
Diet is usually where most people fall down, yes. And they train enough to stimulate muscular gains. Eat enough to support it, though? No. And some eat like birds. So clearly.
And they always say, but I'm eating a lot. And my thing is now in the world of the cell phone, right? When I'm working with somebody and they say, but I eat a lot, I say, okay, I want you to snap a picture of every meal and just text it to me. No words, just snap a picture, send it. And then I look at it at the end of the week with them and I go, you realize you're only eating like 2,100 calories a day, first of all, and you're only hitting about 125 grams of protein. And when they hear how much they have to eat, that's when they become boggled. They're like, oh, yeah, I can't do that. No, you have to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it.
Absolutely. And so those are the people pretty much in the gym and the stages that they go through. Once they begin to become even more established online, though, and that becomes their thing, something curious happens. They stop asking questions. And from what I've seen in many cases, not all, but many cases, that's because they think asking questions is a sign of weakness on a message board or even, anywhere else in life.
Yeah. People don't want to show that they don't know, right?
Right. Because they're the answer man, right? Well, I'll never forget what my mentor told me once. He said, the second you stop asking questions is the second you're going to stop learning, which is the second you're going to stop growing. And I can't tell you how true that is, not just in weightlifting or resistance training, but so many other things in life, Now, I'm going to use you as an example because I've never encountered anyone that has absorbed as much information as you have in as short a time period.
But look at the size of my head, Rob.
Yeah.
I got a lot of disk space.
but you came across let's say fitness and training at age what, 40 something?
39, 40. Yeah.
40.
I was dying and I had to figure out how to save myself. Right.
And so in a period of a very short time, you have accumulated a tremendous amount of knowledge. So the question becomes, how did you do that? Well, from what I can see, you sought out the experts, the real experts, not internet experts. And you asked questions and you listened to their answers and you had dialogue.
In fact, that's the genesis of this show, because I knew I couldn't get experts to answer my questions. I'm some schmo. But if I had a radio show, because don't forget, I started out on AM radio. If I had a radio show, I'd invite them on as a guest. I would ask them the questions I wanted to know. The listeners got to hear the answers too, but it was selfish. I needed to know these things because I was trying to save my own life.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting story. But if you look at that, when that process is halted and stops in someone else, like I said before, the next thing that happens is they stop growing. With you, it started at age 40. You started the show, I'm guessing, shortly thereafter. For 5 days a week, for hours a day, you were absorbing this information. And I'm sure it didn't stop necessarily on weekends.
Mm-mm.
So really, what I saw, and when I thought about this, and from what I saw, this was kind of the new way to learn versus the old way. The old way was books, right? I ordered books and books and books. Podcasts are an even easier format, I think, to absorb information in. But the point is, you are constantly asking questions. Therefore, it's no accident then, I think, you're one of the most knowledgeable people in this field you could consult.
But think about this. I don't consider myself an expert in anything. So I think I got to give a shout out to my cousin Mark. Mark Schumacher is in the house. I love you. Thank you for being here. We grew up together, little kids together. I haven't seen him in a long time, too long. But actually, we may be going to New York very soon, so I'm going to seek you out. I'd love to see your mom too. I really would. Let me give some perspective on something. I'm not an expert on anything. I've never called myself an expert. I don't do videos about why you should listen to me about anything. My objective has always been, I'm going to interview somebody, and you can take away from it whatever you want. I'm going to take away from it whatever I want. I could absolutely be an expert. I've had people say, Carl, you need to write a book. I'm not going to write a book. Carl, you have all these interviews. You need to let people pay you for your time. I'm not going to do that because I'm not an expert. The minute you stop learning, it's all over. The best teachers are perpetual students. I believe in that, and I live that every single day. My problem is with these little shit asses you see on YouTube. Some guy going, he's like 26 years old. I know the answer to building muscle, and you think it's like, dude, you don't know squat, man. You don't know anything. You're right now, your body's going to build muscle easily because where you are hormonally and age-wise. Come back when you're effing 60 years old and tell me how you're building muscle at 60 years old. Now I want to listen to you because that's when the pressure down is so much harder. You're riding the wave up right now. You can do anything. You could probably eat Cheerios and drink wine all day and you're going to get ripped. So I hate these guys. They drive me crazy. Every time I see one of them, I try to fast forward through it. Like, I don't want to hear what you think you know. You know what? I pooped out things that you still don't know.
and that was going to be my last point. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bad information and noise out there. So something like SHR is a perfect filter, right? I mean, nobody's going to come on the show that isn't some sort of expert in their field or, authority. It just doesn't happen with these quote unquote internet experts. And there are. Look, everyone with a camera and an internet connection is an expert. If they're between 15 and 28, like you said, their body grows muscle like that, you think you have all the answers. You don't. Because you haven't confronted, to your point, the much more difficult scenario of being older. You're not in your hormonal prime. Everything you do with your nutrition is magnified, whether that's good or bad. So SHR is a great filter. I would just tell people, keep using it. Keep using it.
And my guess, I've had lots of people want to be literally, and I'm not bullshitting you right now. I literally get emails to the onair@superhumanradio.net, the general email address that's shared on the website. Probably 4 or 5 a day, some publicist hawking some expert that would be great on my show. And I go to their websites. I see they're selling they're dotting the landscape with the same supplements everybody else is. They have their twist on it, but they want to come on as an expert like this, and that because they want to sell their supplements. That's really all they want to do.
Yep.
I turn to people like Dr. Brad Schoenfeld and that core group of scientists who are doing good work to unlock the why and how of building muscle and strength. I just had a great guy on from McMaster University. Why can't I remember his name now? It'll come to me in a second. Talking about how muscle size has an effect on muscle strength. The bigger muscles are stronger. So the takeaway from that show is if you focus on hypertrophy, which is something that Brad Schoenfeld has always been talking about, if you focus on hypertrophy, the strength part follows. Yeah. And so, I'm not letting people on this show that want to abuse my platform and reach my audience because they want to sell some BS supplement and they're positioning themselves. I only have real scientists on this show. Yeah. And there have been a couple that I cringed, like after I had them on, I thought, oh man, maybe that was a bad idea. Maybe they were, their science doesn't sound so sound all of a sudden. But by and large, there's a lot of people who would love to get on this show. And I'm always told, I always know who they are because they tell me how big their following is. And we can share your show with our 150,000 Instagram. Like, I don't want that. I don't care what your following is. What's your brain like? What's your research like? What's your work like? I want to see that.
Yep. No surprise to me. That's terrific. Good story.
Okay, so Jeff Palmer says, I've heard you talk about back in the day. Well, if you get old enough, that's a regular term, by the way. Like for a 30-year-old guy, back in the day is in a diaper. You know what I mean? I've heard you use the term back in the day. Supplements like Hot Stuff, Mesobolin, Metrex's original product, which is amazing. So there's my question. If they were available again, which ones would you buy and use? This is an interesting question, especially juxtaposed to what we were talking about before, how supplements just disappear.
Right. And it's a fun question, too, because, it causes you to think back, I guess, to a time when you were younger, right? The real truth is back in the day, at least back in my day, part of the fun was the fact that some of these products were clearly spiked with stuff. Yeah. So it was sort of like a box of Cracker Jacks, right? Every so often you got something really cool, something extra that you certainly felt, but you were not certain what it actually was. I would tell you, thinking back right off the bat, I'd take the original Metrics again, Zoe Discovery's products, Zebutol, Hexandrolone, Mark Thierman's original Mesoblin. I'd take those all day long, right? I don't know what Thierman, he was the chemist that made all three, Zeb, Hexandrolone, and Mesoblin. I don't know what he was actually using, but I'm reasonably certain some batches were not natural. Curiously, I never had any blood work come back bad. And I did occasionally have blood work done on those products, except for one batch of hexandrolone. My HDL values were in the cellar. You can make of that what you will. A couple other things. This may sound really weird, but I would buy the Cybergenics and IcaPro kits again, not for the supplements, but for the training and diet programs that came along with those programs. If you really think about it, and those of you that remember, Cybergenics, for example, were recommending a ketogenic diet, cycling ketogenic diet, fasted morning workouts, the first really NO2 nitric oxide type products, and they were onto creatine, even though he might not have used, that exact compound. It was the workout, though, that was legendary. I don't care if you didn't use a single one of those supplements that came with the kit. If you trained and ate like he recommended, you got in phenomenal shape. And for the $100 I paid for it, you can be damn sure I got every penny's worth of value that I could. I mean, when I was walking and in the midst of those workouts, I was thinking a lot about that $100 and what it took, right, to save. That was like $1,000 back then. So it was big money. ICAPRO was too complex to describe here outside the context of this discussion. But their training and diet program was put together by Dr. Squat, Fred Hatfield, and Dr. D. Pasquale. So, what does that tell you? I remember reading it and thinking, wow, I don't know if this is going to work, but clearly someone put a hell of a lot of thought into this. So, if I recall correctly, they had microcycles A, B, and C for your training. That was timed with your diet and such.
A lot of the time, these people changed up their training, and if they would have they could have ate cornflakes along with it, but just the new training styles provoked new growth.
Yeah. However, I thought anyway, timing workouts with the diet and certain macronutrients, that was pretty edgy stuff in the early 90s. If you were reading around, not many people were talking about that. It was all about the supplements. I would buy the original hot stuff again, if only to test it, to see what was in that first batch, because it was magic if you had it.
Was this really Duchesne's slogan? Ultimate Orange pre-workout gives you wings?
No, I don't remember that. I remember him saying it's not for every pencil neck ding dong in your gym. That was in the actual ad.
Okay. Because I was going to say he's ahead of his time if he said that, because that's what the Red Bull says, right? Red Bull.
Bull
wings. Okay.
He might have, but I don't recall it. By far, though, my favorite category was the sketchy stimulants category. And there were things with real creative ingredients, let's say, but they didn't rattle you. They did keep people up sometimes for days. They did make you super focused, but they didn't necessarily, make you crawl out of your skin like a good dose of Yohimbe. Things like Stimulant X and Slim Extreme, if you remember those products, before they found out, was in them, they were fantastic. Subsequent lab work, and I think Pat Arnold, if I'm not mistaken, did part of this anyway. When the Stimulant X or Slim Extreme product was analyzed, a new designer stimulant was found. And boy, did it work. I can only imagine how much of that stuff those guys sold. The problem was it wasn't really on the label, and the FDA and a lot of people take a dim view of, I took something and I didn't know what it was because it wasn't on the label. So even though I never had any issues, I'm not saying other people didn't. But then again, I never used much of it, just enough to experience it, I guess. I think I used 2 bottles total, a couple times a week. So in summary, I guess there was a lot of fun stuff way back when. And I didn't even touch on the pro hormone era. But it's sad to say that much of the fun was likely stuff that either was illegal, not on the label, or an actual prescription drug in some cases. I don't know. I don't know that anybody will ever know. But clearly, those products.
Yeah, there was more stuff in there than was on the label. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean they were working much differently than the supplements we have today. Let me put it.
We've told this story several times on the show, and it's worth reiterating. And there's a guy who his name associated with this story because I knew him, but he's passed, and so I'm not going to use his name. But he made some amazing anabolic supplements. And he was using ingredients that a lot of other people were using too, but for some reason, his stuff worked. Like one of his products, I'm not going to say the name because then you'll know who it is. Like guys were taking it and it was supposed to be like D-Bowl, right? This make you feel like you're taking D-Bowl. And guys were getting back acne and hair was shedding and they were putting on, half a pound a day and bloated and it was like, oh my God, it really is just like D-Bowl. And the FDA seized some of his product. And they scrutinized it. And they were like, no, it's just, DHEA and whatever other stuff he had, pixie dust he had in there.
Yeah.
This guy was brilliant. He bought a gel cap manufacturing machine to make his own capsules. And he was putting the D-Bol in the capsule. When the FDA tested the product, right, they opened the capsule, they poured it out, they DEXA scanned it, they did this, they did that. They're like, yeah, no, it's just pixie dust. There's nothing in here. I don't understand it. They weren't testing the capsule itself.
I heard that story.
It was true. It was true.
That's a great story.
And it's like, oh my God, like he was brilliant. And people just kept buying that product because it worked. Why did it work? Because it was really, so you were supposed to take like 4 caps a day. And I think there was like 3.5 milligrams of D-Bol in each of the capsules themselves. So you're basically taking, 12.5 to 15.5 milligrams a day of D-Bol if you followed it. And then, most of us, we never took what was suggested. We took 4 times what was suggested because we figured if some is good, more is better. It was, and in
brilliant. That case, it was true.
Yeah, it was brilliant. He was brilliant, and he really did beat the system with that one. He really, really did. We have to take a commercial break. We got lots of stuff piling up. We'll get to everything. Lots of wonderful comments. My cousin Mark is here, which is really important to me, and I'm happy about that.
Cool.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more of the Blueprint Power Hour lineup. Post your questions. We'll get to all of them. Stay tuned. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/White Oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order. Every day, there's a new wellness trend. Eat that. Do this. Avoid those. How do you know where to start or who to trust? Inside Tracker helps you cut through the noise by analyzing your blood, your DNA, your lifestyle, and your fitness tracker to provide you with a science-backed, trackable action plan on how to live, age, and perform better. Personalized, one-size-fits-one recommendations to help you optimize you. For a limited time, Inside Tracker is offering Superhuman Radio listeners 25% off the entire store. Go to shrnetwork.biz/inside tracker, INSIDETRACKER, to save 25% off. Change begins on the inside. If there is one mineral you should be worried about not getting enough of, it's magnesium. Magnesium is the body's master mineral, powering over 300 critical reactions, including detoxification, fat metabolism, energy, and even digestion is influenced by the presence of magnesium. That's why I'm so excited to tell you about a new magnesium product I've been taking now called Magnesium Breakthrough. It's the ultimate magnesium supplement, easily the best I've ever seen or experienced. With all 7 forms of magnesium, I was able to arrange an amazing deal for my audience, and I guarantee it's the best deal available on this product. Seriously, with volume discounts combined with our custom 10% coupon code SHR10, you can save up to 40% off select packages of Magnesium Breakthrough. And I promise that this deal is only available on this specific website, Mag Breakthrough. No, don't do this to me. Hey, Rob, you there? The commercial just froze. I don't know what it is. Oh, wait a second. Let's see what happened here. See, this is what I'm talking about. I don't understand it. This stuff, none of this makes sense to me.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
We're gonna have to do a show without commercials. That's all. I guess it won't be the worst thing in the world.
No.
Figure this out. I don't understand it. I'm not gonna fool with it. Let's just do the show. Okay. It's like everything. Both computers stop working. It's almost like they get hit from the internet. Like somebody's coming in and whacking me. I got to see if my firewall is working. I got to be honest with you. I'm really starting to become suspicious. Owen, this only happens during when I'm trying to record a show.
I'm just going to come out and say it today. If anything, if anybody hears I died from COVID or a
Yeah.
sudden case of COVID or had an accident, no. I know I've been pretty vocal about this, but listen, I haven't raised a question that isn't valid, or stated a fact that isn't true. So
This is so like this server has never given me a problem ever. The idea that it just stops, it's the weirdest thing. It's not
on just this show.
Yeah. I mean, it's been working fine. In fact, I've been running. The recorder has stopped. It's like this computer has completely stopped running. And I'm telling you, the way it happens, it makes me feel like something is coming in through the internet and whacking this machine. Now, the good news is I'll get the audio from the video right here, and I'll be able to publish it. But I don't understand what's going on with these two. And the irony is that they're both separate machines and they're both having problems.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
No, it's like it just freezes. Everything just stops. That's okay. No commercials today. The audience wins. How about that one? All right, we'll go right on to the next question, and we still have lots of questions piling up here, so we'll get to all of them. The next one is Ben Rader. He says, you've spoken before about citrulline. What other aminos do you think are worth the money?
That's a difficult question to answer because, right, there are so many, and they all do different things. Taurine, for example, great insulin mimetic, right, and other properties. But, would I supplement it for tissue repair? No, it wouldn't be my first choice. There are better amino applications. For a long time, beta-alanine was really hot, and you can still see a lot of research going on it. It's it's not stopping. It's just continues to pile up very favorable studies. Why? You can measure the increase in muscle carnosine, right, for weeks, in some cases months on end until it maxes out. But the reality is nobody sticks with beta-alanine for long, at least not many people, because the benefits aren't noticeable enough to I guess, justify the cost. Unless it's in their pre-workout and they're getting it there, they're probably not using it.
Right.
A lot of people ask me about BCAAs. Well, there's a lot worse things you could spend your money on, but given what we know about branched chain aminos, especially now, and as more and more time goes by, they wouldn't be my first pick either. So forever and a day, I've said essential aminos. Everyone knows, I hope by now, or should, the merits of using them in and around the workout. And then you have your things like citrulline and agmatine and arginine and the related salts of those aminos, mostly for NO2 enhancement. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze on most of those. Citrulline is turning out to be an exception. It does some really cool stuff, including keeps muscle growth going on a low protein diet. So something I think they need to research further.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I rather like TMG, trimethylglycine, for a number of reasons. I've got it in Synthogen, and I got a big tub of it, right? That I take sometimes even more of if it's a really heavy workout. It also does something that, I can't be felt or seen, I guess, until you see your blood work. It keeps homocysteine way down. It lowers mine from the high normal to a little above high, all the way down to like
that's a big deal, because homocysteine is an inflammatory marker associated with heart disease.
Yeah, and I find it interesting. It does that at just a mere 750 milligrams a day. And I've had separate blood work done on B vitamins, tons of B vitamins, which, as you know, can also bring it down. But they don't work to the extent that TMG does, at least not in me.
Yeah.
For that purpose. I am frankly perplexed that more people do not use IP6 or inositol hexaphosphate. As the name implies, it's the amino acid inositol with 6 phosphate groups attached. It is a great complement to creatine as a source of phosphorus. And most guys are taking creatine, so why not? It does everything that beta alanine is supposed to do.
Really?
It keeps lactic acid down from the first dose. Now, that's good and bad. The good part is it works like right away. You don't have to wait. Very noticeable if you work fast between sets. The bad news is beta alanine accumulates in muscle over months and months and months. So you can stop taking it and it'll keep working for months and months and months because it takes a long time for levels to go back to baseline. So otherwise, I'm really surprised more people don't use the stuff. IP6, 20 years, and here's another part of the reason. It's cheap. 20 years ago, it was stupid expensive. I remember ordering it from Beyond a Century up in Maine, and they were, a low-cost bulk type carrier. I forget the exact price, but it was really expensive, especially to run it in the gram amounts that you needed to see, what it did.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's much more reasonable. It should allow everyone that wants to try it and see what I mean. You can easily afford enough now to carry out that little experiment. Yeah. So hope that helps. That's a great question.
Before we go into the blueprint tip of the day, okay, so we're getting a question here. Being Lahori Fitness says IP6 ? But I think you've explained it pretty good.
Inositol hexaphosphate. It's fairly easy in a web search to find.
Yeah. Let me just go back here, shut that down. Before we go to the blueprint tip of the day, and we're moving fast today because we have no commercials. I wish I could do this show without commercials, but then there's no money to do the show.
Right.
Let's get to the questions and comments. There's one comment I want to talk about. It's about intermittent fasting. Rob Wolf has features on intermittent fasting, converting fast twitch fibers to slow twitch fibers, which isn't a good thing, unless you're a cross country runner. If you're a cross country runner, then it's wonderful. Intermittent fasting is going to work for you. So I was probably one of the first people in 2008 to start talking about intermittent fasting when Dr. Mark McCarty published a study over at the hospital in Mexico City that was a division of UCLA. They have a hospital in Mexico City. And I got on board with it right away because it promised to keep me young and healthy because it upregulates many of the proteins associated with better aging, like sirtuins. And so I'm starting to have different opinion of intermittent fasting. And I'm starting to think that older people may not do as well. Anthony Roberts was supposed to come on this show. Anthony Roberts, by the way, is an attorney now. I don't know many people that know this. And he's working on a very, very big federal case. And he was supposed to come on the show last month. But then he realized that he had to do a presentation to a bunch of attorneys because they're getting ready to go to court in a couple months. And he couldn't come on the show. So we scrapped the show. But he was supposed to come on and talk about ghrelin. So ghrelin is the hormone produced in the stomach. It's actually a peptide that is responsible for feeling hungry. Ghrelin agonists like GHRP6, MK677, and others are being used today to raise growth hormone levels. But one of the things that people fail to understand about ghrelin, because it's an evolutionary safety mechanism, if you're starving, ghrelin is responsible for turning down energy consumption, rightfully so, right? If you're starving, you want to slow everything down and try to, if you've forgotten to fill your car up with gas and you're taking a long trip and you've passed a gas station and then you see next station is 25 miles and you look at your gauge and go, okay, how do I get to 25 miles? So the first thing you do is turn the air conditioner off, right? Because, I don't want to burn any air. I'll open the windows. And now you're starting to get worried. You go, oh, man. So now you start driving slower, right? And you drive slow up hills and downhill. You let the car coast. So you do all these things to conserve what gas you have. Well, ghrelin is kind of like that on the body. So when you're hungry, ghrelin turns on. And when ghrelin turns on, you increase growth hormone production only if there's a pulse. So ghrelin doesn't make growth hormone. But what ghrelin does do is it allows the body to produce more growth hormone. And what I mean by that is, think of ghrelin as the brake, and think of growth hormone releasing hormone as the gas pedal. I'm shutting down this server while I'm talking, so I apologize for being somewhat distracted. I'm trying to save what we have and see if the server will come back on. But so when your body pulses growth hormone, it's every 3 hours for men, every 1.5 hours for women. Ghrelin, or the presence of ghrelin, suppresses a hormone called somatostatin. Somatostatin, as the name sounds, statin is supposed to suppress the production of growth hormone. So in order to have growth hormone truly pulse, you need growth hormone releasing hormone, and you need a ghrelin to suppress somatostatin. So you take your foot off the brake and you put your foot on the gas pedal and you have a pulse of growth hormone. This is how physiological growth hormone is produced. And it can't be produced without both of these actions. Foot off the brake, foot on the gas pedal. So people think that fasting increases growth hormone production. It does to a small degree, but not really. Not significant enough that you're thinking, oh, I'm getting the equivalent of shooting 2 IUs of growth hormone a day. No.
Yeah.
But you have to understand why ghrelin and what ghrelin actually does. So while growth hormone is supposed to increase fat burning, ghrelin suppresses fat oxidation. And while starvation should make your body put more free fatty acids into the bloodstream, ghrelin suppresses the release of free fatty acids. So ghrelin suppresses the use of fat as an energy source while conserving fat at the same time. Get the picture? Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been watching intermittent fasting for a long time because I've been interested in it. And one of the things I noticed that is, people who fast are never really lean. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can lose weight fasting, but you get to a point where you've never seen paper thin skin on somebody who fasts. You only see paper thin skin on somebody who eats 5 to 6 meals a day. And I'm going to explain why that is. So Anthony was supposed to come on because he was the first one to publish an article about GHRP6 actually promoting fat accumulation years ago. And now there's so much more good data out there that it does. So those of us who are using CJC 1295 and GHRP6, we have to use very small amounts. Most people use too much. If you get really hungry from your shot, then that means that ghrelin is the stronger mechanism occurring, which means you're going to store fat, save fat, and not burn fat. Think about that for a second, right? You're trying to raise growth hormone. So the magic in taking those two is to take small amounts, 50 micrograms of each for women, maybe 100 for men. But if you get hungry after it, you're taking too much. That's number one. But number two, ketones may override the hunger effects, but they don't override the effect of ghrelin in suppressing fat oxidation and protecting fat stores. And this is really why people who are on a strict ketogenic diet, you don't see anyone on a keto diet that's ripped. They always have adequate amount of body fat subcutaneous. You don't see anybody who's doing severe intermittent fasting, 16 hours a day, once a month, 3 days. They're never ripped. They should be, right? You'd say to yourself, my God, this guy's starving himself. Why don't I see his abs? Why don't I see separation in his muscles? Because from an evolutionary perspective, there are mechanisms that are millions of years old stopping that from happening.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of chemistry working against, right?
The body is complex. This idea that this, I love Joel Green term baby talk. This idea that what's the one, there is no one thing. There's 67,000 things affecting everything you do. Let's just see what happens here. If it comes back up. There's so much more at work. So the reason I wanted to do this show is because I wanted to say, hey, is your intermittent fasting keeping you fat? People's heads would explode. Oh, I lost 30 pounds. Yeah, but are you shredded? Are you shredded? The only way you can get shredded is to eat multiple small meals a day. And I'm going to dumb this down in Joel's words. I'm going to talk baby talk. But what's happening when you eat multiple small meals a day is the body believes that the environment that you live in is abundant. We never get hungry. Now, I'm not talking about what obese people do, eat several large meals all day long, right? That's what I said. Several small meals a day do two things. Well, more than two things. Number one, they make your body go, we never want food. This is great. We can actually get rid of the body fat. What are we saving it for? We eat every day 6 times. Number two, if you're eating small meals and you're doing it the right way, you're eating your protein first and complex carbohydrates and healthy fats, insulin stays steady. When insulin stays steady, you're not making new fat. So you're not making new fat. And the body goes, hey, we can burn fat. We don't need it. Like if you have 3 cords of wood, you don't need that in the summertime. You're not turning the fireplace on. So sell it to your neighbor, throw it away, get rid of it. That's how the body works. And so nobody wants to eat 5 to 6 small meals a day because it's hard work to come full circle. Why people don't put muscle on? Because they don't want to eat all the food they have to eat. But this idea that intermittent fasting is a therapeutic approach and is good for certain things, but you don't really need to fast more than 12 hours. Really, you don't. And everybody out there like Simland and all these guys, and God bless them, they're very intelligent people, but they're taking this whole intermittent fasting thing to an extreme, and a lot of people, if not more than most, are not seeing it. More importantly, there is evidence now that us older guys and gals who employ intermittent fasting, it may actually promote insulin resistance.
Yeah, I've seen studies going both ways, so it's confusing. I think to the person, to the layman out there who's heard about intermittent fasting and all these benefits, but now there's more science showing, otherwise. What do they do? So I guess my only question would be, okay, I'm currently practicing intermittent fasting. How small meals can I eat during the day to get out of this?
Well, you determine what your caloric needs are for your goals. What are your goals? Build muscle,
yep.
Stay lean. You determine what your goals are. You pick your caloric requirements, right? You know what you need calorically, right? You let that dictate how much you eat each day. You lay out your macros. I need this much protein, this much carbs, this much fat. You cut that into 4, 5, or 6 small meals. You get up in the morning and you train fasted, right? And then you have your first meal. And then you have another meal every 2.5 to 3 hours. That's the magic. I'm telling you right now, that's the magic. Nobody wants to be bothered with it because it's just so convenient to fast. Well, it is. You know what else is convenient? When you die. You don't have to pay bills, you don't have to eat, but that's not an alternative, right? I mean, you lose a lot of weight a week after you're dead. That's not an alternative. So we have to be careful to pay homage to convenience in turn of sensible dieting. Look, convenience gave us fast food. Okay.
Right.
Convenience isn't always the best thing in the world. Dr. David Lieberman came on my show, a brilliant man who wrote the book, Story of the Human Body, and said, if you put an escalator next to a coconut tree, the indigenous people will stop climbing the tree and they'll take the escalator. And they'll get fat because now they're not working as hard as they used to. So we have to be careful. We want convenience. We want everything to be made easy for us. That's our actual downfall. But with that being said, you don't, if you have your last meal at 6 p.m., you go to sleep by 9-ish, you wake up at 6 a.m., that's already a 12-hour fast.
Right.
So if you get up and you do some cardio, see, like I'm eating again before I train in the morning, I feel so effing good. It's just amazing. And it's like, duh. I've always made the greatest gains and gotten the leanest when I was eating 5 to 6 small meals a day. I did cardio, fasted in the morning first thing. I had my meal. I went to the gym and I trained within an hour later. So it's out of my stomach. That is the magic. Boring as hell. It's not the new sexy thing. But guess what? Vince Gironda to today, it works. It works.
Yeah. I think a lot of people will be rethinking their intermittent fasting right now after hearing that.
Well, nobody's going to take, like I said, I'm not an expert. I haven't conducted the research. I haven't done anything. Yes, intermittent fasting can be very stressful to the body. Stress is not necessarily something the body likes. That's why if you look at the longest lived people in the world, some smoke, some drink alcohol, some don't smoke, some don't drink alcohol. But what they do almost unequivocally is routine. If they have a beer at 12 o'clock, they have a beer at 12 o'clock every day. What that conveys to the body is they live in a world of abundance, because remember, what the body fears most is famine. So if you live in an anti-famine environment, which means that every time you do want to eat, you eat with exception. I'm not talking about becoming fat, right? Small meals. That's when the body loves its life.
Yeah.
Likes predictability. Here, he says, Craig Hollander says, I totally agree. Allocating macronutrients throughout the day optimizes almost everything. It does. Mental clarity, happiness. It gives you a better mood. We have, as always, we learn something and then we take it over the cliff with us. And that's where intermittent fasting is today, in my humble opinion. And again, I'm no expert at anything at all. So should we go right into, looks like we don't have any real questions. Let me make sure. He says Biden introduced, Dean Paulson, Biden has introduced most of the new bills against supplements. Listen, Canada just outlawed vitamin D in doses larger than 1,000 IUs.
Jesus. It's scary.
The thing, and the Canadian government saying that doses above 1,000 IUs are dangerous. Meanwhile, you make 10,000 IUs in an hour in the sun.
Yeah.
This is what happens when we elect politicians that are effing stupid. This is it. We're seeing it. It's coming home to roost. So,
yep.
Anyway, what is the blueprint tip of the day, Rob?
Well, real quickly before I do that, I've been a pretty outspoken, let's say, truth advocate when it comes to matters of COVID and such. But I want you all to know this. If I suddenly die from COVID, or I have an accident, or I committed suicide, don't believe it. And I'm being serious telling you this, because I'm seeing many, many people that have been very outspoken and had a platform or a following. They're dying mysteriously. So having said that, just a few weeks ago, the director and deputy director of the FDA's Office of Vaccine Research, Marion Gruber and Philip Kaus, suddenly and inexplicably resigned. And incredibly, Gruber had been with the FDA for more than 30 years. 30 years. Kaus for more than a decade. Eventually, it came out that they quit because they were opposed, right, to Mr. Biden's vaccine for all campaigns. But really, think about this. Who walks away from a cushy government job making well into the six figures with enormous pensions, everything paid for, health care? Who walks away from a job like that, right? At least what reasonable person? Just because, they later said they had a difference of opinion about the boosters. Do you walk away from something like that? No, of course not. Something was amiss. And that something turned out to be interesting indeed. It seems that they had to get away before dropping a bombshell. That bombshell is called Considerations in Boosting COVID-19 Vaccine Immune Responses, which is a paper to come out soon, appearing in the very prestigious journal, The Lancet. Gruber and Kaus are among its authors, and they lay it out in unmistakable language. They recommend strongly against any COVID booster shots. That is not news. It's been public knowledge now for a while. But there was wording, disturbing wording in that paper, or is in that paper, that most people haven't heard. And it goes like this. Quote, there could be risks if boosters are widely introduced too soon or too frequently, especially with vaccines that have immune-mediated side effects, such as myocarditis and Guillain-Barré syndrome, which has been associated with the adenovirus vector COVID-19, which is, I think, J&J shot. That wording is very, very concerning. Consider the fact, again, that this was written by two top FDA officials. It's nothing short of remarkable, especially at a time when the Biden administration is going all in on vaccine mandates. And for the record, there's not a single COVID vaccine authorized for use in the United States that doesn't have at least one of those side effects that they mentioned in that paper. And that's just for starters. Meanwhile, additional studies are showing that for teenage boys, the vaccine poses a greater risk than COVID itself. Listen to what they write here. Remember, these are scientists. These aren't people on Facebook. Quote, for boys 16 to 17 without medical comorbidities, the rate of severe adverse events from the vaccine is currently 2.1 to 3.5 times higher than their 120-day COVID-19 hospitalization risk. And it's 1.5 to 2.5 times higher as the high weekly COVID-19 hospitalization scenario. Long story short, that vaccine is a hell of a lot more dangerous than COVID-19 for that age group. And I would suggest to you even more. Now, something else you might notice, the Pfizer vaccine. It seems now whenever the vaccine is mentioned, it's almost always Pfizer. And it's getting a big push. Like, here's a good example. Haiti is the only country in the Western Hemisphere that stood up to these forced vaccines. And curiously, its president was assassinated this past July 7th. And wouldn't you know it, in less than a week, Mr. Biden had 500,000 doses of Pfizer's vaccine delivered, courtesy of the U.S. taxpayer. Isn't that amazing? Now, consider also this. We're being told that Pfizer is a great company. They've got the best scientists, the most advanced vaccines. They're doing the most and highest quality research of anyone. The reality is quite different. In fact, unbeknownst to most, never mentioned, Pfizer has a criminal record with the U.S. Department of Justice. And this wasn't some rinky-dink civil class action lawsuit that you see on TV that lawyers advertise for. It was a criminal indictment for fraudulent marketing. That's a nice way of saying they lied about what their drugs do or don't do, as the case may be. And so in a historic U.S. DOJ decision in September of 2009, Pfizer pled guilty to criminal charges. In fact, it was the largest healthcare fraud settlement in the history of the United States Department of Justice. Now, let me ask you a question. If you had a criminal record, any criminal record, never mind something like this, would anyone hire you? Of course not. Would they talk you up on the national news? Of course not. You know, just think about that. Think about who they really are before you roll up your sleeve. Now, I've seen this all before from the inside during the great financial crisis. So let me break it down for you. Gruber and Krause aren't worried about losing their jobs or ever even working again. They're set for life, quite possibly their families too, for multiple generations. They're that set. So they don't fear job loss. They fear something else. It's called Congress. Because you see, when the CEOs, the CFOs, and the other EIEIOs of WorldCom, Enron, and Tyco got hauled before Congress to testify in the early 2000s, they only had two choices. The same two that Gruber and Krause are going to have. Either tell the truth about what they knew and when, or lie and try to cover it up. Either road leads to only one place: prison. That's where the CEO of WorldCom, Bernie Ebbers, went, and he got what amounted to a life sentence, dead today. The rest of the CEOs, etc., they all did time and lots of it. So Gruber and Krause, they won't have to worry about where their next meal comes from. They're likely quite worried, however, it's going to be slid in through a slot in their door.
That's good.
All right. And rightfully so, because like the WorldCom, Enron, and other investors that were left holding the bag, lives ruined, people hurt by this vaccine are never going to get back what they really want, which is their health. But I'll tell you this. Remember I said this. The whole world knows that they're in the right. And it may take some time, but righteous people wield a lot of power. There will be a day of reckoning for these people. Now, let me summarize where you are, okay, where we are at in this pandemic. The people that get vaccinated, we're told, are protected, but not really, because we're told the protected need protection from the unprotected.
Oh, wait. I want to step in here. Keep your place for a second. But those of us who remember last year, first of all, when Trump was president, all the Democrats lined up and said they would not take this vaccine. The same vaccine that they're selling today that was worked on by President Trump's administration. But then when Joe Biden gets into office, now they're in love with the vaccine. It's all great. And so one of the things you have to remember was originally this vaccine was sold to the American people by saying, once everybody's vaccinated, we don't have to wear masks anymore because this will be gone. So that turned out to be a lie. If you're cool with that, that's fine. We're losing listeners because we're talking about vaccines. I'm watching them all log off, but that's okay. The reality is that now the landscape is changing because now they're saying, well, it protects you from having severe symptoms. The only people it protects, the only people that it confers protection to are those who are obese or have raging high blood sugar levels, because we now know that from a well-done study that the people who were admitted to a hospital with mild to moderate COVID symptoms and had the highest blood sugar levels, their symptoms got worse faster and they were more likely to die. So there's a small group of people in this country, the obese with high blood sugar levels, that can benefit from this vaccine. It may keep them from dying and it may keep their symptoms from getting worse. I agree that that's the case, but it doesn't confer any protection to anybody who's already had the virus and gotten better. And it doesn't confer any protection to any of us who have strong enough constitutions to withstand it and develop natural immunity. So I don't want to be black and, oh, the vaccine is bad. What is bad is that they're trying to force people to take it. That is bad. If you don't agree with that, then there's nothing I can say. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you're 100% spot on. So since the government thinks mandating our healthcare choices is such a great idea, I got a mandate of my own. Let's say I come out with this today. Starting today, all obese people have 90 days to lose weight and get down to a healthy BMI. Well, wait a minute. You don't want to do that? You can't do that? Too bad. You lose your job, which means no more Twinkies, no more ring dings, no more hanging out with the Keebler elves. It means you and your family can't eat, which, considering the circumstances, is really a good thing, you see, because that's what got you in this predicament in the first place. On to healthcare costs and why this mandate is so important. Obese people racked up almost $200 billion in healthcare last year, which causes all of us fit people to pay higher premiums. And oh, by the way, vaccinated obese people are driving healthcare costs even higher. How? The cost of the vaccine. You didn't really think it was free, did you? That is likely going to increase claim costs for all of 2021, as several insurers noted in their recent rate filings to state regulators. I used to help the underwriters put these together, so I know a thing or two about them. More obese people drives more claims. More claims drive worse and worse plan experience, which causes the insurer to raise rates for the rest of us. So if I'm creating a new targeted class, it goes like this. Obese people are responsible for all of America's problems. They're bad people.
You're being facetious right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But
it's
this is essentially what's being said.
On the unvaccinated side, right?
So everything I just told you, though, the numbers and so forth, are documented facts. Documented facts. Yet they're creating a target group, the unvaccinated, and using many of the same tactics, right? Forced vaccinations, you're going to lose your paycheck, that I just made out to you.
Even the Vatican won't let you in now if you're not vaccinated.
Right.
I'm not a religious person at all. But as I recall, Jesus used to commune with the lepers because nobody else would.
Right. Exactly. So, they're essentially saying to us, you don't like it? Too bad. Because it's your body, but it's my choice what to do with it. So there it is, everyone. Welcome to Nazi Germany. Now you know my
problem with the Nazi Germany thing is that it's overused. It has no meaning anymore. And that's sad because millions of Jews died. I don't say welcome to Nazi Germany, but I do say welcome to the G7, because this is all these things that you see happening globally, that like it's being orchestrated. All these countries are doing the same thing. It's because their leaders go to G7 and go, how do we control our people? Our population is getting bigger and bigger. How do we control these people? And they discuss ways of doing it. And really what we're seeing today is the push for a global government. Every country does the same thing. And it can't be that way. Just like every household on your street, even if you live in a subdivision where all the homes look exactly the same, every household is different, has different needs and run differently. I don't like the whole Nazi thing. It actually deflates the gravity of the discussion. But go on. I'm sorry.
My point is many of the same tenets are going on. The target group defined, the hate that was directed our way, the hate in Biden's voice and his eyes when he gave that speech. I challenge anybody to go back and look at it and tell me that's not the case. The censorship when we speak.
Yeah, like this show will probably be taken down. You know that, right? Okay.
The needle that we don't want stuck into us. And all of it mandatory. Or we and our families don't eat. Because that's how it's working, literally. I can't believe
they did this in
I'm
Ireland.
saying it, but that's how it works.
They did this in Ireland when Queen Elizabeth wanted Ireland to stop being Catholic and start being Protestant. They went there and they destroyed their crops, and they told them they couldn't grow anything anymore. And they literally, so then they set up little churches, Protestant churches. Guess what was in the center of the church? A big, giant cauldron of beef stew. This isn't a lie. This is true. And if you came to church and listened to the Protestant missal and religion, you could eat from the beef stew. So they starved the people, and they made the food only available to people who would convert to the Protestant religion. This has been done for thousands of years. If you want to force people to do something, you first starve them. And then when they want food, which they always do, remember, this is an interrogation tactic, right? If you're in prison in some foreign country, they starve you, and then they walk in with a ham sandwich. They say, "Tell us what we want you to know." You'll tell them anything. You just want to eat. You're starving. So this is old stuff that we're watching again. The problem today is that too many people don't see what's going on. And I really think that this is has something to do with intelligence today. I think that the less intelligent people can be fooled, so to speak. But it's look at this. Look at the 10 stages of genocide. It will blow your mind. Some would say we are at step 6.
Yeah, and those are all excellent points. Let me try to crystallize what I'm saying here for the people that are listening. If you see these kinds of hate crimes, and that's what I'll call them because that's what they are. You need to do this or you don't eat. Targeting the unvaccinated. If you see those kind of hate crimes, all right, it is your civic duty to say something and do something. Speak up and vote against this genocide, because that's what it is. It's all fun and games, folks, until it's you who they're coming for.
And no one is safe. Look at Nicki Minaj. She makes one tweet about fertility and this vaccine, and they are out to destroy her now. And meanwhile, Dr. Robert Malone posted a study that shows that there may be some fertility issues for people who take this vaccine. You don't hear that on CNN, by the way. But there's a study out there that shows that.
Or that it collects in the ovaries.
Dr. Robert Malone was lauded and loved and trusted. And now he's vilified because he's not on the side of the vaccine.
Yeah, there are some disturbing things going on for sure. It is my hope, though, that the people that listen to this show are the kind of people who value their personal freedoms. And even though they might not agree with me on the vaccine, hopefully they agree on this. Targeting people, vilifying them, taking food away from them if they don't have something injected in them is wrong. It's wrong.
It is on any level.
Right.
On any level. So you want to hear something funny? When we started talking about it, we lost half our audience. Literally, I was watching. Bing, 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 bing. I'm like, oh, they don't want to hear about this. But now it's all back again. So I don't know if we replaced the people who didn't like the discussion with people who do. But there's nothing wrong with saying that freedom is important. It really is. And, everybody has causes. Everybody has causes. So Carrie Kruger is watching from Pretoria, South Africa. How you doing, Carrie? I hope you're feeling well.
Me too.
In troubling times. It is. It's troubled times in Africa and everywhere now. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, that's it. So look at that. Almost commercial. I think we had 3 commercials. I'm going to have to splice them into the final show. Thanks to everybody who was here. Thanks to my cousin Mark for watching on his vacation. Thanks to all of you for contributing to the discussion. I love it. Craig Hollander and Being Lahori Fitness and Dean Paulson and Sean W. and all of you. Thanks for being here today. And we'll see everybody Monday with more Superhuman Rated. No Casual Friday tomorrow because I got to figure out what's wrong with this computer. I may just have to break down and buy a new one. These servers are expensive. They're not cheap. And then it's the pain in the ass of moving everything over, and I don't want to do this.
Hopefully it's not it.
Yeah, we have one more comment. I don't want to leave anybody out. Tommy D. Tommy D is in the house too. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see everybody Monday with more Superhuman Radio. Take care.